Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Miles Trial. Today will be a very good episode because we have Jackson, Feather, and also Ava on the show. I know some of the viewers on LFA TV has been asking about Ava, so here you go. Ava is back on the show. Let's welcome Jackson,
Hello,
Ava, and Feather.
Thank you, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
And before we get started with the show, I did wanted to mention the fact that yesterday's episode was a rerun, so we do apologize for rerunning the episode. And the reason for that is just so this team here is able to stay throughout the closing statements made by both legal teams yesterday, because yesterday during the trial, the whole day was basically spent for both legal teams to conclude their opening statements, and we did also have to unfortunately wrap up the closing statements for Miles's legal team today in the morning. And today, actually, before we talk about the contents of this show, I do also want to let the viewers know, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the comment section or the live chat. I'm going to be looking at the chat to see if there's any confusions about some of the stuff we are talking about, to bring us more clarity to better help you guys understand some of the information that is being brought up during the trial. So with that being said, Jackson and Feather, do you guys wanted to let the audience know what has the updates from the trial today?
Yeah, sure. So, like what Wasano was talking about is today we have finished officially the closing statements from both sides, the defense as well as the government. And now, with that being said, the jurors are going to deliberation. The judge has given her final instructions to the jurors, and now we're essentially awaiting for the final verdict.
Yeah, and this is why we skipped we didn't have the show yesterday. It's because of the closing statement from each party took 3 hours, and then today, finishing with the defendant's closing statement by our defense lawyer, the government has a chance to rebuttal. So there's an hour adding, with government finishing the whole closing statements by the rebuttal.
So can you clarify what is a rebuttal?
Essentially, it's like an answer to what the government has to
an answer
say in their
to
closing.
the defendant's closing statement, right? Yes, this is basically a rebuttal, like a rebuttal. Like a response to the final statements. And then after that, we finished today pretty early before lunch break. Actually, it was around noon, that we finished the whole closing statements and final instructions, and this is when the deliberation for the jury officially started. And then now we're just gonna wait for the result to come out. And when the jury make the verdict, and we're gonna know soon what it is.
Right. Thank you, Jackson and Feather, for giving us the information regarding the closing statements. And we will be covering the closing statements from both of the legal teams in the coming days. But today, before we do that, we actually wanted to talk more about one of the witnesses from Miles's legal team, which is his last witness, witness number 9, George Higginbotham. And for this witness, the reason why we wanted to cover more about this witness is because there were a lot of numerous points and arguments that has been brought up during his testimony that we feel like we wanted to really emphasize to those viewers, just in case you guys missed the episode, just because it really does paint a very good picture as to Miles Guo's experience as a victim of Operation Fox Hunt. And I think that is something that is necessary to clarify if we wanted to understand more about Miles, because at the end of the day, he is still the defendant of this case. So with that being said, for Feather, do you wanted to, I guess, bring up his background for who George Higginbotham is?
Yeah, for sure. So this person, George Higginbotham, was employed by the Department of Justice from the time period August 2016 to August 2018. And why it was ended because he was fired by the Department of Justice due to involvement in a conspiracy in an influence scheme. So this is what we're going to talk about. This is the reason why we bring it up, and it's related to Miles, and then this is why he testified in court, because of what he did in this scheme, and it's separated from this case. So this is another case to prove that the CCP tries to take down Miles by bringing him back, by abusing the U.S. judicial system and to bring him back, and it's CCP's tactic because Miles is CCP's #1 enemy, and this is one of the tactics to shut him down because of what he believes, what he stands for, you know. So with that being said, we're going to talk about so before this witness came in court to testify, they never speak with any. He never speak with any of the defense counsel in person. Never seen Miles before. Never talked to Miles before. And every communication is done through his counsel and Miles's counsel. And he plead guilty for what he did, the conspiracy in the influence scheme. So then we're going to talk about what he did and then why what he did that further prove why Miles is #1 enemy of the CCP, and this also will explain why it's so important for Miles to forward this movement. So this is all related, and because you cannot ignore the movement when you talk about this case, right? So we can let's talk about because before this a witness came to testify, it's pretty sensitive, right? As we all know, they discuss a lot about this witness, what he can say, what he can't say, regarding to his work at DOJ. Do you want to bring some detailed information about what they discussed in court by the attorneys and the judge?
Sure. Yeah. So so this is gonna take you guys, because although we're on the trial day 31st, but we kind of going back 2 days ago. So on July, I think 9th, the day of 29th, that George Higginbotham took the stand of the witness. So he was the last witness in defense's case. Although it's very interesting how Higginbotham came in to be a witness. As you heard from Feather, that the defense team had no opportunity to talk to him before. Directly, yes, through the counsel. Only, even through the counsel did not give the access to the defense attorney, other than confirming the location where he needs to show up, basically, logistics. But the reason why is he was subpoenaed. Okay, so as you heard that Feather was saying that he was charged and pled guilty in 2018 in a conspiracy that involving repatriating Miles Guo along with his co-conspirators. There's a number of them, and they're very influential people in the United States. So just having George Higginbotham sitting at the stand and testify, there's quite a battle, I would have to say, in terms of what question that the defense can ask, because he didn't voluntarily saying that I'm going to come in and I will be a witness for you. No, he was subpoenaed.
He was subpoenaed.
Yes, he was subpoenaed, and he actually had agreement with government, but not the Southern District of New York, but he had a written agreement signed with District of DC of the part of the DOJ. So and so that's why when Miles Guo demanded that, say, hey, we're gonna subpoena him to be our witnesses, the government, I understand why the prosecution team is concerned, because they're also part of the DOJ. They're, although not same part of the DOJ that was George Higginbotham used to work for, but so to help you to understand how concerned and how sensitive to have George Higginbotham sitting there as a witness for defense, we want to show you two documents, two discussions basically happened at the court, and we're going to show you some transcript. One of the transcript we want to show you is on July 8th. Before 9:30, the court starts officially inviting the jury member to be seated. The judge usually conducts half an hour. They have a half an hour time to kind of sort it out any other business between counsels. The different teams. So let's pull up the July 8th transcript of. Yes, that's great. Page number, is that the page number? If you can scroll down, that's the bottom, because that start with the courts. If keep going to the end of the end. Oh yeah, here, just hold on a second. Let me see the last paragraph of the 5. Yeah, thank you. So that started the discussion around the last witnesses. Thinking about this transcript is on July 8th. Okay, it's actually a day before that George Higginbotham take took the stand. So the court, which is the judge is asking, are you going to implying at any point that the government, which means the U.S. government, is being manipulated by the Chinese government or the Chinese Communist Party, correct? This is a question posing to the defense counsel. So if we can score down a little bit, and then it says, responded by Scott Schrick, no, Your Honor, the defense has been clear that we don't plan to make the argument. If we can score down, I would note, however, that this is a single fact that Mr. Higginbotham was employed, of the DOJ. Could you score down a little bit because I missed the sentence?
Can you scroll up?
Up a little bit.
A bit more.
Just
Line 5.
Line 5, please. Yeah, okay. Department of Justice, at the time of the conspiracy and at the time that he had the meeting that I described to the court earlier today, and in fact, it's part of the narrative, Your Honor, because we were asked to go to those meetings in part because he was attorney for the Department of DOJ. Justice. So why they make the arguments, if you can score down a little bit. Okay, here we go. This is a Miss Marie. Marie is a member of the prosecuting team, so she is concerned. So she is saying, Your Honor, we strenuously object to that. So in terms of what you get a sense what the defense lawyer wants to bring out, they just want to bring out the fact that he's worked in DOJ. Maybe they were asking a few questions related to that, but the defense felt not comfortable, so they object and they say the state of fact in connected with Mr. Higginbotham a guilty plea in the DC case make it very clear that he was not acting in his DOJ capacity. So the prosecutor team trying to emphasize that he's acted out on his personal capacity. Okay, so when he decided to take a part of this conspiracy that involving him working with others to repatriate Miles Guo on behalf of the CCP, he did it in his personal capacity. That's what the defense team trying to emphasize on. We can take away this document. Thank you. So they're very sensitive. They're afraid. Because they're self are DOJ employees, so they actually made a request to the judge and asked the judge to adding something in the jury charge, which is instruction to the jury, which is say, hey, Your Honor, could you add, this prosecution was brought lawfully by the United States. They emphasize on that they need to add that in the beginning of the jury charge, so then the jury has a proper instruction, so it does not taint the entire prosecution.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we will get to see more of the actions that Higginbotham has taken to collude with the CCP on certain matters, and I think that is one of the reasons why they wanted to kind of draw the distinction away, because in short he was acting as George Higginbotham when he traveled overseas.
And one thing I want to make it clear for audiences, because some of them would wondering why the defense wanted to actually have George Higginbotham testify in Miles Guo's alleged fraud case. Okay, this is a key. Why we wanted George Higginbotham, which the things what he did, the conspiracy happened 6 years ago, 7 years ago, right? So and he pleaded guilty in 2018. So I want you to understand the prosecuting team trying to argue that Miles Guo defrauded the people that followed him because he needs money. Okay, so by saying that, they trying to not giving people room to think. Okay, why would he do that? And risking his entire life. So in the course of the whistleblower movement, he fled China. He got here in 2015, left his entire family, left his entire life and wealth and everything he built in China, and he fled it here with no immediate connection, And then in 2017, he was threatened. Actually, December 2016, his family, his hotels has been harassed. In 2017, people was arrested, and then he's decided to come out to publicly speak out against the CCP. And ever since that, he was He was threatened, he was coerced, he was kidnapped, he was assassinated, he was tried every other way you can think of. On social media, CCP global smear campaign, they coerced social media platform to silence him, deplatform him, to lock his account on Twitter and YouTube, you name it. Okay, this is a global manhunt. And he continued to speak against the CCP, even though they sent the agents, even though they paid fake protesters from August to October in 2017. He continued on, but the prosecuting team wants you to believe that none of the things that he gone through matters to him. Okay, they want you to think that he was broken and he need money. That's why he defrauded people. For prosecuting team, that's such a simple thing. But we say, no, wait a second. Everything he did, the way he fled, the way he gave up everything, using a word, life-sacrificing prices that he paid, lended to United States and starting this movement, it does not make sense that he's writing this all off just because he needed money when he still enjoy his luxury lifestyle as a billionaire, supported by his family fund. Okay, don't forget that he has a family foundation that provided him since 2015, and the money has been consistently flowed in as we saw court evidence. So why we want to have Higginbotham is because we want, things happen to Miles Guo did not happen to anyone else. And asking a jury members like you and me, we're everyday people. We only see Hollywood movies and thrillers, and I don't think there's any Hollywood movie as even close to what Miles Guo has been experienced in the last 7 years. So it's very hard for people to understand. So having George Higginbotham make that experience real, okay? So we want jury, and particularly not we, I guess I have to think what the defense lawyer wants. They want this thing be real for the jury, so they wanted to have the perpetrator, okay, who participated the conspiracy on behalf of the CCP, who actually met the co-conspirators in CCP. He met the CCP's ambassador in US. Okay, he actually traveled to China in 2017 and talked to the CCP official. So he can make things real, and from his personal experience and sitting in that witness stand. So he can actually help solidify, the other people's experience as well, just through his testimonies. So this is why I think defense team wanted to have him coming as a witness and to share his experience and what he has done, what he pleaded guilty and what he has known to him, to the jury. So it's easier for the jury to connect the dots together with the kind of condition Miles Guo was under. Okay, so Miles Guo has no doubt is the CCP enemy number one and the highest priority of the Chinese Communist Party's fox hunt. Okay, having said that in mind, you will actually significantly undercuts the government arguments that none of things matters to him. Only money matters. Okay, Miles Guo is only after money. That's their simple version of the story. So that is why we want a Higginbotham in the courtroom and answer the question that we wanted them to answer truthfully in terms of what he has done.
Right, and I think there were elements in his testimony that kind of gave us the picture about how much resources the CCP really spent in order to get back on Miles, to try to repatriate him back to CCP. And also another fact was that there was another piece of evidence of a phone call of a CCP member and Miles that was expressing the kind of the response of the CCP after Miles whistle blew against the CCP, right?
Yeah.
I think those two things, the fact that they came up in the court actually, like you said, gave a very clear picture of the way Miles was attacked by the CCP, and also the CCP's reactions to his whistleblowing, which kind of solidifies the fact that. Which kind of also shows the reaction from the CCP and solidifies the fact that why they would try so much to go after Miles. And because until then we only heard about how they attacked Miles, but this time it really shows their distaste for Miles and why they're trying so hard to do that, because Otherwise, that phone call wouldn't have happened. You know, they wouldn't have or certain things wouldn't have been said during that phone call.
For sure. And also the other things for people to see, you know, you have to take this consideration. The perpetrator is sitting here as a witness, but Miles Guo has been never stopped working on this political activism, political movement called whistleblower movement, right? The goal which is to bring rule of law and democracy to China. Despite the CCP is hunting him at the back, okay? That is why we had so many difficulties, you know, so many difficulties in the 8 years in the past. So this is why the defense lawyer in their closing statement, they want a jury, which is ordinary, a private citizen of the United States, to be able to connect. Okay, so not only he did political movement, but he did a political movement under this kind of circumstances, and still survived, and still managed to grow the movement, and still elicit so many independent thinkers like us to follow him. So there must be something here that was, you know, look beyond what the shallow story or superficial story that the the government brought, right? So yeah.
And another thing too I'd like to point out is the fact that the idea of taking down the CCP has been very welcomed in the testimonies by the witnesses, right? I haven't once heard during the whole trial that someone supports the CCP.
That's right.
It has always been, everyone has always been, hey, you know, taking down the CCP, you know, that I support that, I respect that. So that's something I would like to point out. And another thing too is that also speaks to the actions of George Higginbotham, right? Because I know around the time he testified in the very beginning, there were some statements made by the court regarding his actions. Do you want to actually cover that part? Because I think that part is actually very significant, very telling. Yeah.
So if we can switch to the second, that was a transcript that we're about to show you. Is actually on July 9th. The 29th day of the trial. It's on page 5558. If we want to, 5559, right? Is it 5559? Yeah, 5559. So I have it here. This is another discussion. So we just read a little bit for the July 8th. So that was sensitive for the government regarding George Higginbotham in terms of the scope of the question from the defense. Again, the next day in the morning, they discussed this very issue again. It just showed you how much weight, you know, the George Higginbotham's testimony carried for the defense, both for the prosecutor and for the defense. So here we go, 555. This is page 559, isn't it? It starts at the second paragraph. Yes.
You can read the line numbers there.
Okay. Oh yeah, at line number 7, it's basically say the government now would ask. And we understand that may be over defense objection, but just for the very factual and accurate statement that this prosecution was lawfully brought by the United States of America, full stop, after the DOJ employment is illicit in Mr. Higginbotham's testimonies. And then our lawyer, Scott Shurek, responded, say, Your Honor, 2 things with respect to Mr. Higginbotham. One is I just wanted to make sure the court aware of the consistent with Honor's instruction yesterday. I have communicated with Ms. Higginbotham's attorney to convey the court's instruction to Mr. Higginbotham, affirmatively raising the fact that he was a DOJ employee beyond what the defense and the government have agreed appropriate questions on his direct and cross. So just to trick and tie that off for the court. So as we showed you on July 8th, they were talking about limiting the scope of the question, and this is again mentioning about what it was, what the defense planned to do. So if we can move to 5561, page 5561, the second paragraph start with line 9, and the court says, this is actually the judge. The judge, after hearing both defense and the government, the court said, this is an extraordinarily unusual circumstances where an individual who is an attorney and employed by the Department of Justice got himself involved in a scandalous scheme that goes to the very core of lack of patriotism, a lack of his allegiance to his oath. It's a very rare circumstance, and I'm afraid that the jurors may think that somehow his conduct infected the rest of the work of the Department of Justice. And then our Shurik responded, I certainly understand your Honor's point. I think the only thing that I would add is I fully expect that government on cross with Mr. Higginbotham will elicit that he was not a persecutor. He worked in the Office of Legislative Affairs of the DOJ in Washington, and we will also likely elicit that his scheme was, frankly, interrupted by FBI and that it was not brought to fruition despite the conspirators' attempts. So this is what in July 9th. So anything else from you guys in terms of what the discussion might be, that your recollection?
I believe we covered this a little bit the other day when after the trial and when the judge said that in court. Just give me a second. Just go back a little.
Because I think we can see not only the concern of the prosecutive team, but also the judge herself, right? She's worried, and I think I think a lot of people working in DOJ are actually good people. But what we wanted to make a jury to understand is it's a state of mind of Miles Guo and the whistleblower followers. Is because the things that happen to us and happen to Miles Guo are so real. Okay, the threats, the life-threatening things are so real. They're hanging at our mind all the time. Right? So we worry that the CCP would come after us and the CCP would come after our family. And as you heard from the previous testimonies, right? Mr. E, who was forced by the CCP to file a false complaint of of GTV to SEC and FBI and writing letters to New York Times and New York Times, Wall Street Journal. So he said when the lawyer asked him, "Do you feel safe in the United States?" His answer is no. I don't feel entirely safe because why? Because the CCP is here, and we all know CCP is here. So what we worry is CCP infiltrated and utilized, the United States people, patriots, as a tool. Using deceiving or corruption, whatever tool they have, to use those agents and to basically hurt Miles Guo and this movement. That's our fear, and it's always going to be there. So, and we want to try to show the jury, so help them to understand when Miles Guo is under that kind of thinking and fear, that state of mind, what kind of action would he do? Okay, in terms of some of the things that we demonstrated in the past, whether it's by prosecution team or by the defense team in the last 29 days of the trial, right? So with that understanding and the state of mind. So, go ahead.
I just want to add something real quick that, a lot of things being brought, like Ava said about Miles' state of mind, and then how his supporter, like Mr. E, don't feel safe in the United States. And think about what happened to Miles when he's here in America, seeking a refuge, right, from the CCP. And then, people like them exist. People like those people are courageous. After they're getting prosecuted by the CCP, they still choose to speak up against them, even if they don't feel safe even in here, right? So this is another way to show that, what Miles does is not only courageous, like he tried to bring other people with him that stand up against CCP, and he goes beyond that, right?
Right. And there are two main points I think that is brought up in this statement that actually wraps up what you guys say perfectly. And one of the points is the fact that this is a very rare occasion, right? Because if you think about it, there's only so many CCP members in this world, and the people that collude with them, I can only imagine them to be an even smaller handful of people.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good distinction that the court actually made between those people who collude with the CCP and also the system itself. Because if you guys actually watch the opening of the show, there is actually a quote from Miles about how Miles expressed that he thinks the American justice system is great, and he believes he still believes in the justice system because of this fact that there's only so many CCP members in this world, and there are even less people who collude with them. And another fact of this speaks to the uniqueness of the situation, right? Because when we think about another witness that on the government side who actually bought on another case, the bankruptcy case, that he also testified to the uniqueness of the situation, and that is because Miles Guo is the number one enemy of the CCP. He is a whistleblower of the Chinese Communist Party.
That's right.
And for those two reasons, I think that statement actually, really emphasized on those two parts. And also, as Feather said, this is why we are confident that we can take down the CCP, because it's only a handful of people like we have just mentioned.
Yeah.
And there are people like, Miles Guo and the New Federal State of China who are doing what they can to continue to speak out against the CCP and stand up against the CCP.
That's correct. But unfortunately, we don't know. People really colluded with the CCP would not tell you that they're colluding with the CCP, right?
Right.
So that's why we're living in a very imperfect world. But I think after undergone through 30 days, I really appreciated how rigorous and this legal system is, because it's very, very hard for somebody to fake something. Like as we witnessed, how the witness's testimony, right? You have to go through direct, you have to go through cross, then maybe recross. So it's very, if you lie uncohesively, like it's very easy to identify they're contradictory, and which I actually find, multiple places that the prosecutor team witnesses, the different witnesses, they're contradictory to each other. Even they're saying they're all like prosecuting teams witnesses, they might conflict completely. So which is it should be that case, right? If they are saying the same thing, that it might have they might have second thoughts about why they're all saying the same thing, why everybody have the same experience. But come back to the George Higginbotham. I think, do you want to continue with his testimony on the 29th? Because he did saying a few highlights, like in his testimony, that I think jury members would remember during his testimonies. Do you want to? Do you want me to talk about it?
Because we have to mention the collision with the corruption within the CCP, and also like with the project that Joe Low is involved, which is the 1MDB, and it's like a part of the scheme. And I think Ava, you know more about this scheme, and then why Joel also.
And before we do that, why don't we
right?
have Jackson actually lay out the connections between these people we just mentioned, like Joe Low and also some of the other individuals who came out in the testimony, just so the viewers can have a clearer picture when we do dive in more of the details.
I think Joe Low, we don't have to dive in more details, because Joe Low is, you go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, Mr. George Higginbotham, witness number 9 from the defense, his relationship goes all the way back with a singer-rapper, a musician called Pras Michel. He was, working illegal with him. Their relation goes back all the way to the early 2000s. And long story short, Joe Low and he was the mastermind behind the multi-billion-dollar scheme, the Malaysian scheme, the 1MDB, as everybody knows. And with that being said, he wanted to resolve his, quote-unquote, resolve this issue, the 1MDB issue, to be able to come back to the States. So he was actively working behind the scenes to collude and coerce different people, the higher ranks within the society in America, to resolve this issue so he can come back in.
He has his hands on a lot of celebrities and a lot of people.
Yeah. And Pras Michel was one of the contacts here in the United States to essentially spread his tentacles, right, to the Hollywoods, you name it. And then from there, that's where, Pras Michel introduced George Higginbotham to Joe Low. And essentially what happened was they needed somebody in the, because at the time Trump was in power, right? There was a different administration. Right. And without getting too deeply on that side, that's where George Higginbotham came in to see if he can find somebody on, within his, because he was an attorney for DOJ, to want to get him.
They need somebody with the influence of political influence.
Political influence, yes, right, to resolve the issue with 1MDB. So anyways, with that being said, that's where George Higginbotham came in, and he's the one that got George Elliot Brody, for example, but anywho, he played a part in that. I mean, all these guys pled guilty, which is very interesting, and let me see, where are my thoughts?
So I was gonna say that this person, George Higginbotham, he's not the one that actually, extradite Miles, but he's the contact person to help.
Contact person.
The contact person
Mhm.
that help this to make a connection from the CCP person Joe Low to the Republican Party that was in charge and at the time like Elliot Brody, that's influential political figure in the party to convince the U.S. government to extradite Miles to China.
Yeah, with George Higginbotham, he's almost like a recruiter, right? Hey, can you find this person? Do you know this person? Do you know that person? And then so from that case, essentially, the other topic came up, which is, hey, here's another project, the extradition of this gentleman by the name of Mr. Miles Guo. And then from there, that's kind of how that door opened.
And so because because you talk about Jolo, because we don't want to spend too much time about Jolo. Jolo, if you watched our show, if you can connect the dots, Jolo is not a ordinary person. He is a Malaysian citizen, but he is actually a illegitimate son of one of the CCP kleptocrats. Okay, and his name is Meng Jianzhu, who basically was the head of secretary of the Legal and Political Committee, which is one member of the Politburo, very close, very top CCP members. Illegitimate son, that's Jolo, and he's stolen billions of dollars from 1MDB, which is a sovereign wealth fund for Malaysian people. So these kleptocrats did nothing but stealing from people. So, George Higginbotham came into the picture because Jolo was looking for people to resolve a civil matter. He wants to settle with DOJ so that he can come back into the United States, because DOJ has charged against him on the 1MDB embezzling of billions of public money. Okay, so that's the case. So they need a civil matter, and they need an attorney, and this possibly have influence at the government and someone with political connection. So that's why Higginbotham came into picture. But then Higginbotham say, it sounds like you want to influence DOJ, then I need to find someone maybe more powerful. And if you want to extradite Miles Guo, then we need someone extremely powerful. So that's why he started consulting and suggesting who they should approach. But once all settled down, they find a lot of people. Like one of them is basically in Trump administration, the finance committee chair, vice chair. His name is Elliot Brody. So he has a lot of connection with the political arena, and which he also later on solicited the Stephen Wynn, which is the finance chair, and also a personal friend of President Trump at that time. So, but somewhere around the June or May, he's testifying saying that there's another opportunity came up for George Higginbotham, and he described this opportunity as more lucrative, potentially more lucrative than the 1MDB consulting he providing for the CCP. So when he described this, he mentioned about when our defense lawyer asked what's your understanding in terms of what the CCP willing to offer to remove Miles Guo from the United States, and his answer is. The CCP will potentially offer a prisoner exchange and high-ticket items such as planes and also other ways to improve U.S. and China relationships. So the CCP is willing to engage in those things. But on top of it, we know there's monetary dollars as well from previous court cases. There is actually $3 billion put it out there. And for them helping repatriating, they can get George Higginbotham and Michelle can get $100 million, right? And Elliot Brody was promised for another $75 million and later on $3 billion for the entire scheme. So we know there's a huge ticket item on Miles Guo.
Oh, extremely huge.
Extremely huge.
100 million
Yeah.
just for two individuals.
And also prison
amount.
exchange.
Right.
And also part of the deal is they actually this is not set by George Higginbotham. It's by reading the legal documents, and I'm just sharing with you. There's actually also they're willing to accept. I think it's tens of thousands, maybe over 10,000 Chinese illegal immigrants here. So they're willing to take them back, and then. But the thing, and he also testified, he said he basically taking the order and agreed to meet with the Chinese ambassadors in United States. So he actually went to the ambassador in July 2017 to convey a message. Okay, basically saying everything going great. We look like the logistics on repatriating Miles School went smooth, something like that, and then shortly after that, he actually received the money. Okay, after July 2017, when he met with the Chinese ambassador and reported a good kind of update, more than good, I guess. Actually, in August, he received a large amount of money. He didn't say, in the testimony, he didn't say exactly the amount. He just said there was a significant amount of money coming in, tremendous amount. Okay, it's actually more or less of $100 million. Okay, that's what George Higginbotham testified on July 9th. Okay, and then the other things I want to mention is the way he mentioned when he visited China. He first go to Hong Kong and then went to Macau. Macau is another special autonomous region that the Chinese government took over back from Portuguese government.
It's also right next to Hong Kong.
Yeah,
very
it's
close.
next to Hong Kong. Hong Kong taken back from British government, UK government, but Portuguese was taken back from Macau was taken back from Portuguese government. So, and he described this when asked, how did you go to Hong Kong? He said, we flew from LA to Hong Kong, we exited the plane, jumped out of a golf car, and then when asked, did all of you require to go through immigration in China? He said, no. And were you required to go through Chinese custom? No. Were your passport stamped? Because we all know when you enter China, when you enter, in fact, any country, right? You kind of have your
all documentations.
Exactly, but no, his passport did not even got stamped when he visited China. And then he said, my passport was taken away. Yes, my passport was taken, but never stamped. And they basically, you would never be able to find, if they don't tell you, you would never be able to find any records that they were there.
Record.
Yeah, it's not on record. So this is telling you that what the CCP does, they can do everything in China. They can make you disappear, they can make you not stamp on your passport, it just seems like you never been here before. So this is something later on there's more money come in, and he participated in the scheme, and he basically helped the CCP to try to remove Miles School, but it was unsuccessful. So that he testified, and
I remember them asking him, to your understanding, like, why do you think the Chinese government want him back so bad? Right? And this question's been objected, so he was not able to answer. But later on, with his testimony, they were showing like a stipulation, a recording, but it's in a transcript and translation. So and our lawyer Shirk was reading it, and basically we talked about it before. It's the Secretary Liu that's work in the CCP that warns him, oh, you gotta be careful what you say because you're offending people right now. And you're entering your age of to understand your fate. Move on forward. So you're not allowed to discuss these two leaders. So this is like in the other way. It goes around the question saying, oh, this is one of the reasons why they want him back, to shut him up, right?
So yeah, just make it clear for the audience, the recording is between Miles School and a CCP official. It's a secretary of, I think, a deputy secretary of public security or something, and his name is Liu Yanping. So actually in George Higginbotham's testimony, the defense lawyer played a audio. Sorry, not audio.
The transcript.
The transcript of the audio. The transcript of the audio, and they actually read it out. They read it out, and Higginbotham was sitting there, and this person, I'm not sure whether Higginbotham met in China. Did Higginbotham met this person in China?
He met Zhou Lo.
I don't believe he met this person.
No. He met Sun Lijun, which is the Ministry of the Public Security. Okay, but this part we played for him when he was sitting at the stand, and this part basically is the Chinese top official who secretly visited Miles Guo in May 2017 with other 3 agents, and they were undeclared. So basically, they entered the country visiting Miles Guo illegally, basically. That is why they were expelled by the FBI later on when FBI found it out, they were here. So, so on the video, basically, they're threatening Miles Guo and saying, okay, if you don't do this, your your daughter, your wife, your 4th brother, your 6th brother, blah, 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 like they basically threatening him. And they're trying also convincing Miles Guo, say, if you did this, if you shut up, if you don't talk, you will have your life back, you will have your wealth back, you will have your family back, it's everything you want, that you can have it. But Miles Guo didn't stop. We all know that. But this is a recording that played when Higginbotham was testifying. And then in the cross, so when the government crossed it, the government actually also used the transcript. But what they did is they entered about, I don't know how long, maybe 30, 45 minutes of transcript, recording transcript. They picked a few things out, and this is where that Miles Guo and this Chinese official was trying to say, oh yeah, I will do what you say, I will. It sounds like Miles Guo is willing to cooperate, but sounds like it. And then they were saying each other, say Happy New Year, like it sounds like the lines are very friendly to each other, and then when it's redirect, our defense lawyer took the stand and say, okay, do you understand why this was sustained. He said, do you understand that Miles Guo is negotiating his life with the CCP? What the part that's showing you, the government picked just only few snippets of the transcripts that showing that it seems like these two have a good relationship because they calling each other a Happy New Year and thank you, but our defense lawyer basically take it to the essence of the conversation. The 40-some minutes essence conversation is negotiation for his life.
Right.
And literally not just for his life, for his family's life, because the CCP is basically held them on hostage at that time, right?
At that time, yes.
At that time, using them as the bargaining chips, basically.
Yeah.
And then our lawyers say Liu Yanping, which is the name of the Chinese official, represented the CCP to remove Guo. Do you know that? And George Higginbotham's answer, he said, no, I did not know. I did not know that. And did you know Mr. Guo never returned to China? And then Mr. Higginbotham said, yes, I do know that. And then that's the end of the redirect. So, and that's basically the last question of this entire trial. After that, the defense said, we now rest the case. So, basically.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to point out too with that transcript of the phone call is the fact that this is a very unique call, a unique transcript, just because, as we know, these phone calls are always being monitored, so the way people speak, they have to be very careful, so that it's they're not going to directly say certain things. So that would be the reason why it appears very, very normal.
Yeah.
In that sense. And I think that would be why that has to be pointed out, the fact that Miles was basically kind of bargaining for his own safety and also the safety of his family's.
That's right.
And that also lets the jury know that at that time Miles's family was in danger of the CCP because they were under arrest by the Chinese government.
Yeah.
So I think that also paints a better picture as to what his whistleblowing have caused, what kind of reaction his whistleblowing has caused from the CCP, and it also shows how brutal the CCP really is, right? If you think about it, if they speak, if any of us speak out against the Chinese Communist Party, they go ahead and arrest your family members. I mean, that really shows you how evil the Chinese Communist Party is, and I think that is a very good piece of stipulation that has showed up in this court case because of the fact that it really does give us an idea in solid evidence that Miles was truly targeted. Miles and his family were targeted for the work that he's done against the Chinese government.
And you have to think about the timing, because George Higginbotham was recruited to repatriate Miles Guo in about May and June in 2017.
Right.
And this CCP official visited Miles Guo in May 23rd, 2017. So they almost happened concurrently. Okay, so the CCP never utilize only one plan to remove you. They come at all direction, right? They tried using their own undeclared agents to coerce to using their families and wealth and money and whatever in China as a bargaining chips. And the meantime, they recruited, George Higginbotham from DOJ, Eloy Brody has connections, access to White House, with Nicolas Davis and Michelle Praz. So all of those people are working on Plan B, right?
Also,
to help remove Miles Guo.
Also, the red notice right before
Yeah.
he whistle blew, just a month prior, right?
That's right.
And
April
also,
19th.
the
PAX.
the PAX case that has
litigation.
right.
Brought
So there
against
were-
Miles Guo.
So those are just a couple of means on the surface that we
That's
are
right.
able to see just from this
Yeah,
case alone.
exactly. And social media at the same time, right? Facebook, his account had a problem in April, right? And Twitter, the same thing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
YouTube, like every other things happen at the same time. And meantime, on the online, they starting discrediting Miles Guo, right? And then under downstairs of the 18th Sharon Netherland of the New York apartment, they organized a protest from August to October, and people, fake protesters holding identical signs calling Miles Guo a scumbag, and he needs to get out of the United States. And these all staged by the CCP and paid. Actually, on the stipulation letter, it says the CCP provided food, money, and signs for those protesters, right?
Right.
Yeah, and this proves also the CCP expert testimony in court that this is all the tactics used by CCP to their targets,
Yeah.
and everything's been used, and this all proves that no one have ever experienced this at a target of a Russia government or
Yeah.
another government. No one ever experienced this.
Yeah.
This is proof that Miles is the number one enemy of this Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah.
So also, we're gonna later on explain why. Think about what he did to forward this movement, and this is how we have to connect the movement with what he did. With
Yeah.
all the entities, with everything he established here.
That's right. And the government wants you to believe that none of this matters to him. Okay, and he just turn around and start to, because all he thinking is how to steal people's money. That's all on Miles Guo's mind. That's what the government story is, but it's really, really, I think it's very misguided. It's very misguided and very, very superficial. They didn't understand us at all. They didn't understand the movement. They don't care to understand the movement, the political activism, and in terms of all the life-sacrificing amount of price that Miles Guo has been paying and other fellow fighters has been paying. That is why when the closing statement, when prosecuting team mentioning about victims, I wasn't feeling very good because I don't like people calling me victims. The matter of fact is we have more than 5,000 investors invested with GTV, and we know we're getting into. We know it's a long haul. We know that we have to take down the CCP before all those business will be allowed to be boomed as a normal operation. But he painted those victims as gullible. Okay, because they believed Miles Guo so easily. Just because somebody tell you will not lose your money and you will get rich, and we believed him just because we want to get rich, and that makes me feel like I'm belittled. Okay, I have my own critical thinking. I know what I'm getting into. I read all the investment documents before I signed, before I wild my money, and I weighed it against the risk versus what I think I need to do, what the right thing to do, right? I took the money. If I lose it, I lose it. I still would be able to have my retirement. It's not like this is everything I have, right? So that is why when she or he in the prosecutor team in their closing statement saying that Miles Guo defrauded all his investors, that's really, really not true. And matter of fact, through the trial, we see the few witnesses, so-called victims, so-called alleged victims by the government. If you're adding all their investment together, it's not much. They're not compared with the vast amount of money, almost nearly $500 million US dollars raised through GTV private placement. That's nothing. It's 0.01%.
Less than 1%.
Yeah. So you can't say that this is a fraud. So and we have overwhelming evidence to show you this is not a fraud if you actually just took time to understand the movement, because as you said, the movement and the business entities and all those investments are actually together. They're intertwined together. Miles Guo said, he wanted good people to have a decent life, and he wanted people would never ever lower their heads for money. He wanted this for us. That is why he used his experience, right? And he used his network and talents to help ordinary people to get rich, because he painted an alternative life for Chinese. We can live better and without CCP, because the CCP right now is threatening our lives, our wealth, and everything else, right? So this is what he has been doing. So all along the way, and I think that the defense lawyer in his closing statement said very well. He said, just like, because this year is 2024, you're about to have, the most important election in the United States, just like you bombarded with campaign ads. Miles Guo did nothing different than that.
Yeah.
He's simply telling Chinese people that there is alternative and there's something better to aspire to, and to get to become better, to gain more wealth, is nothing wrong with it if you gain it in a lawful way, right? In an ethical way. That's what the G-Series is doing. That's what G Entity and Investment is doing. So so I think our defense lawyer did a really good job. But I think we're not going to talk about today. We're going to talk about tomorrow. Isn't it right? We're going to talk about tomorrow about the closing statements. Yeah.
So I think, today we actually, I think, I do want to thank Ava and Jackson and Feather for giving the audience such a great explanation on this witness's testimony. I know we just have a couple minutes left for today's show, but I am very excited to learn more about the closing statements made by both legal teams, just to see how they close out their arguments, right? Essentially, because I do, from my understanding of the closing arguments, that's when they kind of put some of the evidences out there and kind of connect everything together to really piece from arguments to arguments. So this way, it's kind of like, because the trial has taken place for quite a number of days, so some of the evidences, some of the details might not be as fresh in the jury's memory. So this is actually allows us to get a picture, get a sense of the logic, logic and really just the logic between the arguments provided by both teams. And I am very excited to hear the logic and the arguments laid out in the closing statements by Miles's legal team. Well, before we close out the show today, do you guys have anything else you guys would want to touch upon?
Before we talk about, but I just do want to give audience arguments. I think it's very, very erroneous. Okay, so today in the closing statements, the prosecutors say that the movement is by design by this head of the criminal enterprise named Miles Guo. Okay, so he designed, nobody, because both parties agree CCP is bad, because they entered into a stipulation, right? They don't deny the fact that CCP is on the back of Miles Guo, but they didn't actually taking this into consideration on the effect on the person's state of mind at all. Yeah. They just say, okay, Miles Guo created the movement by design. The reason why is because he's going to use the movement to defraud the money that the people that follows him, the people that follow him. So this is the umbrella that they start with. This is a premises. They want to build all the evidence underneath that, which we will probably tomorrow show you that there's really no hardcore evidence. There's no hard evidence to actually sustain and to support this claim. Right?
Like Sid said, governments are really long on talks, but really short on evidence. Yeah, and then they're only making you trying to connect the dot without giving you any dots.
That's right. Yeah.
So that definitely will be interesting to see tomorrow, because that is in most of the cases it is a reach, in my opinion, on some of these allegations or some of these arguments that is being made. But with that being said, we just have another minute left in the show, so I just do want to let the audiences know where they can find more information about this Miles Guo trial. We do have an account on X at NFSE Speak, and also a Getter account at NFSE Speaks, where we will be posting more information in regards to the trial, if you guys do want to learn more about this trial. And also, we will be having this show at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we also have all the court documents, all the transcripts on our official website at nfscofficial.com. So if you guys do want to read more about these trials, learn a little bit more, these are the places that you guys can go to learn more about us. To learn more about the trial. So with that being said, we will see you at the same time again tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching today, and
Thank
we will
you.
see you next time. Take care.
See you. Bye bye.